Yep, good. You're good.
Thank you. Good evening. The on air sign isn't on. Are you guys on in the booth?
No, it doesn't work that way anymore.
Oh. Okay. I'd like to call the Board of Public Works meeting to order on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Sarian. Present. Alderperson Bailey.
Present.
Mr. Kaza. Present. Alderperson Labatsky.
Present.
Mr. Mroshinsky.
Is excused, I believe.
Mr. Sajik is excused. Mr. Katz, Labatsky, and Haas are present.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, approval of the February 26, 2019 Board of Public Works minutes. It's been a while since we had a meeting, so feel free to take time to review. Yeah, they're not in here. I think they gave them to us like after the meeting, like in March. Yeah. So what should we do?
I'll move to approve the minutes. Second.
Under discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 3, citizen commentary. Okay. Number 4, election of chairperson and vice chairperson of the Board of Public Works.
Ms. Chairman, I nominate Linda Labatsky as chairman.
Is there a second? I'll second. Do we have to ask again?
Yep, ask twice if there's another nomination.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? And then do a roll call or voice? Roll call? Roll call vote, please.
Alderperson Sarian. Aye. Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Mr. Kaza. Aye. Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye. Thank you. Vice chairperson, we need to elect.
I nominate Alderperson Bailey as vice chair.
Okay, I second. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? No. Do we have to do a roll call on this one too? Yeah, roll call, please.
Sure. Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Mr. Kaza. Aye. Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye. Thank you. Number 5, discussion and decision to consider amending the contract between the city and John's Disposal regarding the annual rate increase.
Okay, for this item, the city has a contract, as you know, with John's Disposal for the collection of garbage and recycling. The contract is out for a 5-year period through December 31st, 2021. Per the contract, on January 1st of each year, all rates are adjusted by the change in the National Consumer Price Index from the previous August. For 2020, the change will be an increase of 1.7%. In recent years, there have been drastic changes in the markets for recycled materials. The cost to run recycling programs has increased dramatically. To compensate for the increased costs, John's Disposal is seeking an increase in rates greater than allowed by the contract. The requested combined garbage and recycling increase that they are proposing is about 14%. If we were to agree to higher rates, a contract amendment would need to be negotiated and approved by the Common Council. So all we want to discuss tonight is considering amending the contract between the city and John's. Representatives from John's Disposal are here today to talk about the change in what it costs to perform the service that they do, and they'll come up to the mic and give their name and speak.
We have to turn the podium.
Is it not on?
So he's facing us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. I'm Brian Youngich, President, John's Disposal, and Nate Austin is with me, who's our municipal sales manager. Uh, Thank you for at least considering this request. I mean, our contract does not allow for us to get this type of increase. It's really mostly all about the recycling is what Jeff kind of summarized the thing, is what our company was kind of driven, and we're highly invested in recycling, and that was kind of, there was value in the recycling, and that's what helped offset costs for hauling. And our competitors, most of them are big national companies that have landfills, and their profit center is landfill. So the way that we could compete and grow has been with recycling. If you've followed the news a little bit in the last couple of years, it actually started in the fall of 2017. It really goes back to China, and that was well before all the things we hear about now, the tariffs and the trade talks and all of that. And this was it was kind of, it was really, they have like an EPA, and it was an environmental thing there, and it started with plastics, like plastic bales. We've never had any problems getting rid of the number ones, which are water bottles, soda bottles. Number twos are milk jugs, detergent bottles, no problem. But the 3 through 7s, which is kind of a low percentage of actually what people have in their carts, which is the odd numbered ones, the whole time that recycling's been around, the last 25 years, even around here, businesses would buy these, and they would like mine out maybe the number 4s, which are low density polyethylene, and they didn't need the rest. And it went in a compactor, and it went to the landfill. And it's like, well, we reported we recycled all that, and they paid us a penny or next to nothing, but they got it, but they weren't saving it. I was like, oh boy. But it's like, well, we weren't necessarily required to save all that. The law only is 1 and 2s. Same thing just happened in China, except these bales did not show up in an industrial park in a building, and then what they didn't need went to a landfill. It was like, I saw some of this, you see some of the pictures, and it's like, there's like huts, and this stuff is outside, and people are like picking through this on the ground, and what they don't need is like land spread in the back. So their new leader and their new EPA guy are just like, no garbage. And when there's changes in the US, it's usually, we got 2006 emissions, and then it goes to 2009, and you got a few years. Well, this was like 60 or 90 days, and it was like, that's it. In fact, we had sold loads of paper and cardboard that we'd been paid for, and they said, it's been rejected, and what do you want us to do with it? And there's all these shipping containers in China, and we're like, I don't know, and it was like, that was it. So that was in the fall of 2017, and we haven't shipped anything there. So I think the paper and the cardboard was like kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because the paper mills were state of the art, built by Americans, and their outthrows, they were drying, and they were using as boiler fuel, and it really wasn't a problem. But they just cut us off. And before that, they were taking maybe as much as 40% of all of our paper and cardboard in the United States was going back in those empty shipping containers to China, and they were, recycling it and making boxes where they resell everything to us. So this in a couple of years. So then we thought, well, this has got to change. I mean, they can't keep making all these boxes without all that cardboard. How are they going to do it? Eventually, the price is going to go back up, and they're going to start taking our stuff. But it just hasn't happened. And they're getting stuff from the whole rest of the world. And then what's kind of compounding it is we still get a lot of stuff from China comes here in a box, and then everybody's diligent, and we're recycling most of these boxes, and there's just a glut here. So now we have since then kind of made deals with the local paper mill. We are getting rid of everything that we make. Georgia Pacific up in Green Bay really darn near saved our company. I mean, they are taking all of ours. So we're getting rid of everything we do, but it's a very low price. So right now, because of this glut, and then plus the plastic values are related to energy and related to oil, natural gas. Well, with the fracking, of course, those values are really low too now. I mean, but we are, of course, able to market and sell everything. But the long and short of it is, we were each home in Greenfield has over a quarter of a ton a year of recyclables. So it's I don't know, it's like 27% of a ton. And we were using $20 to $30 value credit a few years ago for each ton that we would use toward offsetting the cost for a home. So if it was $20 a ton and you had, each home had a fourth of a ton, I mean, that was, $5 off of our hauling costs. Well, now it actually costs more to dump a ton of recycling on the floor in a sorting facility than what it costs to bring it to the landfill. We go to other sites, and what we're charging our customers is up in the $50 to $60 a ton, $55 a ton, and it was a $20 credit. So if you do a $60 or $70 swing, each one of your homes, a fourth of $60 or $70 is, $25 a year for each house. It's like, and that's what we're coming to you, really asking to cover to help keep us alive. And we've been losing money now the last 2 years, but we've been in business for 50 years, since 1969. So we're a solid company. We're selling off property and we're doing things to survive. And we suspect that this is going to end, but I don't think it's going to be anytime real soon. If we fail, we would sell to one of the big companies. What we would have to do, and we'd be fine. I mean, our family would be fine. We would get money, but it would kill the dream of passing the business down to our, to the next generation. So we're just asking that there's a way to open this contract back up to just at least cover that cost, that added cost of recycling for us, because we just can't swallow it anymore. It doesn't look like it's going to get better in the near future. I mean, someday I suspect it will turn around, but there's a massive glut here of these recycled materials. And our state law, a lot of states, if you Google it and you look at, recycling values, recycling problems, paper recycling, China recycling, a lot of communities in the United States have just dropped their programs. They just don't do it anymore. Well, in Wisconsin, we have a law that we have to recycle. So it's like, well, that helps us that you guys still have to do it, but it also helps keep this glut of material, with the supply-demand chain. The supply is just a lot bigger than the demand. So that's where we're at right now.
Questions? Go ahead.
I have one.
Person Bailey.
Do you have any other contracts with any other cities? And are you
Franklin?
going to them also?
Yeah, we are going to every community that we have, and we've been somewhat successful. And it's somewhere in that $1.50 plus just for the recycling to cover that a month from each home, and we've been somewhat successful in that.
What other cities do you do business with?
We have 65 municipal contracts. So in this area, I mean, that we're negotiating. We're talking to the city of Franklin right now. We are in Racine County. We have quite a few. Waukesha County. We're in Mukwonago, Genesee. North Prairie. We're in Whitewater. City of Lake Mills out in Jefferson County. The city of Jefferson we do. Out in Dane County, city of Stoughton.
Yeah, some of the other cities that we work with, like Brian mentioned, several of them have confirmed new rates for next year. Every community handles it differently. Every community has different levels of service. You guys have a very premium level of service because you have the drop-off center, which is pretty all-inclusive, and because you have yard waste. So they become a little bit different. Some communities are packaging it with service changes or service upgrades to make an increase more palatable. But like Brian said, so far it's been fairly successful in that our communities have been understanding that it's not a problem that we brought on ourselves.
So when you dump just the regular trash, do you notice that people are throwing recyclables in the regular garbage?
Yeah. I mean,
There's always some amount of that. Again, every community is a little bit different.
Greenfield's pretty good at recycling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it actually hurts us. It's cheaper in the landfill.
Yeah, and with Amazon, it's like so much more cardboard. You order 8 things, it's 8 boxes. you know?
We've had a number of communities in the last year or two switch to every week recycling to handle some of that volume, which seems almost counterintuitive, given what we have going on. But at the end of the day, it's a service, it's a convenience for residents, and
You can only fit so much in the cans.
right.
So, I just had a question regarding the public trash cans you guys empty throughout the city. What do we do for recycling with those? Because everything just kind of goes in the one can in the city? Like, shouldn't we have,
The public ones do have compartments.
oh, they do? I've never used one.
Much smaller compartment for the
So it's like cut in half, half's recyclables,
Yeah,
half's trash.
yeah, but it's probably like 80/20 or something like that.
So 20% for recycling?
Yeah, it's a smaller container for recycling because you're gonna have less of that.
Typically in the public, it doesn't do well. You just pretty much end up with the same material in both cans in the public spaces. And it's hard for me to understand. Everybody knows you recycle, but it's pretty
Yeah.
ugly. In fact, it's one of the problems that we have. It's one of the reasons, it's not even just so much about the values of the recycling that have gone down, but because the values have gone down, the market, the buyers, the mills are demanding higher quality. So, because there's so much out there. So they want us to put more labor into sorting it or more machinery, that makes it cleaner because they can be picky now. We don't want to pay you for garbage. So they where we were at, 97%, or 96, they want 98. It's like, it's like, okay, so you have to we're doing a little bit of both. You slow your line down so that then there's more labor in each ton that you process. And so that's what just driven these costs just really high. So that's part of the problem. Now, the future, I don't know how far out. I mean, there's a lot of robotics and there's a lot of automation, but like now it's like you just don't, there's just not the money there to invest in that type of equipment. And that equipment the people that have it's not working real good for them yet. The robot's there, but it has problems. If it ain't working, well then, and they're coming with that kind of stuff. But
What about the aluminum? Do you make money on that? Are you,
yeah, aluminum, it's a low percentage, and the value of aluminum is really low now too. And aluminum, it's the raw material is pretty easy to make because aluminum is bauxite ore, which is like very plentiful. I guess it's everywhere, and electricity. So it gets charged with electricity. Before, 100 plus years ago, before there was electricity, aluminum was more valuable than silver or gold because the only place it was found is when lightning would hit the side of a hill with this bauxite ore, and they didn't know, they knew what it was, but it was like that's the only way there was. But now, I think it's like Argentina or Brazil, they like dammed up a huge part of their company, so they got really cheap hydroelectric, and they got this ore, and they can just make plentiful, new aluminum as part of the thing.
so how is the drop off? Is it busy Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday? Is it hardly used?
I think the drop-off is about as busy as it can be. I mean, there's just almost always a line there.
So the dumpsters are full like Tuesday and then you empty them and then bring them back for
We do
Thursday?
200 and,
Yeah, we've been auditing that a bit closer this year just to see what the volumes actually are. So we've got we've got some compactors, we've got open top containers, and then we've got some rear load containers. And we were looking at it this morning and seeing that to this point of the year, we've emptied the roll-offs over 200 times. We've emptied the rear loads over 200 times. And that's a piece of what they do over there. So and we get a report 3 days a week from our guys that run it, and the line's out the door, basically every day. They're pretty heavily used.
That's good. Are people getting used to the electronic policy?
Some of them. I think given the size of the city, I think it's going extremely well.
So it's 2 electronics per household per year?
I'd
that
have to
what it
check.
was,
I
Jeff?
thought it was more than that, actually.
Bruce, do you know what it was?
I,
How many electronics you can take a year?
I don't remember.
I think it's 4.
4?
I think it's more than that. And I think to date, to this year so far, we've emptied about 7 semi-loads of electronics. So that part is fairly heavily used too. People love the drop-off. And that is something that is, I don't want to say entirely unique to the city, but in the communities that we serve, it's by far the largest and among the only ones that has one.
And people are good with their little key cards? Or is it still problematic?
It's surprising that everybody doesn't know that now, but there's a few. And then some of them get mad when they get turned away.
Well, if you wait for 45 minutes and then you
Of
get up
course.
to the top and then they say you don't have a key card, they all say the same thing. They say,
Especially if it's their first time there, they think they can just use their driver's license to prove they're a City of Greenfield
right.
resident.
But
So,
we track those as well, and it's incredibly low. It's a very vocal low percentage.
And I hope that people understand that if you just leave that open, then you can have people from surrounding communities coming in that,
exactly.
I suppose that happens a little because people take somebody else's card, but it's just, we have to be tracked a little bit when it's just, it's a big cost, to run that, and so.
Do you do the garbage here?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
John's do it here?
Yeah, all citywide.
Just a question. I notice in the halls and in here, we don't have recycling bins. So I have to like take my papers home to recycle them?
Well, that's something we could do internally here at City Hall.
That's like
Pointed it out until now.
custodial.
Yeah. So you guys don't keep track when you empty our dumpsters, how good we're doing with recycling? Because it doesn't seem like we're on it as much as we should be.
What we do for our compliance is our drivers are supposed to point out if they see blatant problems, and they're supposed to, identify a couple every day is what they're 1 or 2 a day. And you guys haven't made the list, so that I know of. So.
Well, it'll be more recycling starting very soon. Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
Getting back to amending this contract, I see some potential pitfalls, and that one of them is if this situation in China, let's use the paper for example, suddenly reverses, and we've increased, by 14%, suddenly your margins are going up, and we're going to continue to pay. That said, I'm not unsympathetic to your position. I'm wondering if you would be receptive, and I don't know how to negotiate that type of amendment, but if you would be receptive to indexing it to, let's say, the paper and cardboard.
Did you read it?
Where that increase, as long as your costs stay up, and I don't know how
Yeah.
we measure it, you know what I'm talking
No,
about?
there's ways to do that.
Yeah, I'm receptive to that. I'm
So
not-
then when it comes
Because
back,
what
you
can
can get.
conceivably happen is the tariffs and everything change next week, as we all know that they have. And I don't know that, I'm not blaming it on the tariffs, but these things are pretty fluid. And if that all changes, I don't want to lock us into.
You're kind of right. It is possible, and it just kind of in my mind, I haven't really heard anybody say it, but a few people. But if the tariffs go through, is it possible that they will mention this, and then we're personally, most of us in our industry are thinking that we don't even make the list because whatever they're talking about is like what's in the box. They're not that worried about the box, but it could be because, I think it's a big deal for China because they're buying like higher grades and they're paying more shipping and they're paying a fortune for their feedstock to make all the boxes that come here right now. So it's in their interest to get our nearly free, and the freight there that's why. And the freight there is nearly free because those shipping containers have to go back there. And there's nothing, what do we put in a shipping container and sell to China? I mean, in the fall, there's some grain in that, but they said it's almost a problem if there's not enough ballast in the ship. They need some weight. They can't take those big ships with all empty containers back to China.
One of the concerns I have with that Chinese situation, if you will, is when we cut them off from our products, they find other sources and they may not come back.
And that's what happened, kind of, right?
So I'm
So
just-
no, we can definitely do something like that, and we do that work because we do contract with other communities that we don't haul for, and other companies that use our processing facility. So there's regular listed. It's similar to the commodities market. the values of, the paper. It's called the official board market yellow sheet, and it shows, what the values are of paper, cardboard. And then there's another place you can go that shows the plastics and the tin and aluminum cans. And so we certainly could do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna call it an escalator, de-escalator clause, for lack of better thing. I don't know how we go about negotiating that. I'm putting that out right now.
So this is for 2020 to 2021, this,
Just the calendar year 2020.
okay. So what if this keeps going up every year and it keeps escalating and our residents, we have a lot of senior population here in Greenfield and they're on fixed income, so it's, it's hard. If it's gonna keep, your costs are gonna keep going up, we're gonna have to keep passing it on to our residents.
Right. I mean, most of this, I mean, and I think that the costs are going up because the other part of what we do, I mean, really the main part of what we're asking for here is to cover the recycling. But think about what we're doing, trying to hire drivers and buy trucks. And I mean, that whole thing is not getting cheaper. And if we don't keep up with that, we're going to lose. And like in Greenfield, we got some good drivers here. And if we don't keep up with it, we'll lose them. So the cost of putting trucks and drivers on the road is not the whole thing. I don't know. And now with there is some the landfill, as I'm sure you're aware of, the two biggest haulers in the area have merged. The Waste Management has bought out Advanced Disposal. They own all the landfills in the area. So I think the antitrust will need to, and we of course contract with those landfills. So the federal government has, the Justice Department is involved with antitrust laws, and then they will have to sell some of it off. So then, well, probably some third, national company will come in and own some of that. And to this point, there's been some pretty healthy competition between those two, companies, and there's a lot of landfills. So it's kept everything, the prices, I think, relatively reasonable. But if some friendly competitor comes in, and the prices, what do we do? We don't own the landfill. So that's a somewhat of a concern in the future too. So like one thing we have in some of our other contracts is where our increases are limited to cost of living, but we have the ability to request more. So if we request more, if we can't justify it, then the city has the option to terminate at the end of the year. And that's something that we can bring early in the fall or late in the summer, so the city has time. So if we can't agree on something, you have time to terminate the contract and get somebody else. So you're not necessarily stuck in something. And we hate to, commit. I mean, that's kind of what we did here. We were just too overly optimistic about the value of the recyclables. And we thought 2018 was going to be the best year we ever had with the whole Amazon thing and the way the economy was going and all this. It's just going to be great. They need all this raw materials, and the opposite thing just can't. The other thing just was like a boomerang. It came around and almost cut our head off, So it really hit us hard. So we're kind of in a survival mode here we've been pretty successful with this. And next year, if this stuff goes through, I think we're going to be in okay shape.
I have a soft heart, and I know you're good people and you have a good company. That's why I feel badly saying this, but I think this came up last year at the council level, if I'm not mistaken. And I know, considering everything, I think the consensus was, considering our constituents and the city finances, that the contract is a contract and we should keep things like it is. And I guess that's why I feel that we should just, stick
Yeah,
to our
that's certainly what, and we would certainly do our best to, to honor the contract. And we probably, if that's what the council would decide, we would probably ask, the only thing we would ask if 2020 could be our last year, so that, we could, because 2 years would be pretty hard on us to have to, I mean, it'd be really bad for us to have to try to do this for 2 years. So if you could just end it after, a year early on our contract, it's probably that's what we would request.
So then you guys would drop Greenfield?
Well, we would finish next year, because I mean, you can't, we would honor the contract for next year, but then we would be done after next year.
So in 2021?
We would have to go out for proposals, and they could potentially,
Right, we could bid on it too.
could bid on it as well.
Okay.
That's just, I'm just saying that's probably, because we've thought this through, what would happen, and that's what we would probably request. I don't know, you know, if, I think that's what we would like to see if possible.
One question.
Go ahead.
So Jeff, so the chart that we're looking at on the second page, if you can explain the difference here.
Okay, so what I'm showing here, I'm showing both the annual per unit means like, for example, a household. The annual per household, and the one below it is the monthly. So I don't know what you'd rather, which one
The
you'd rather.
monthly one, so
talk about.
1373.
Okay, let's talk about the monthly. So right now, we pay John's Disposal $10.32 a month for garbage collection. This is what we pay them. We charge the residents. This is what we pay John's. This year, we pay them $10.32 a month per household for garbage collection, and $3.42 per month per household for garbage collection.
Recycling.
What's that?
Recycling.
I'm sorry, recycling. And so that's a total that we pay them of $13.73 a month. Okay, so now what would happen under the contract is we would increase it for 2020 by the consumer price index from through this August, which Paula provides that number to us, and she's told us that this year that number is 1.7%. So in other words, we would be looking at increasing the amount we pay John's Disposal by 1.7%. So if you look at the second column, the rate for 2020 by the contract would be a total of $13.97 per month that we would pay John's. Now, John's is looking at an increase based on what they explained today. They would like to be paid, rather than the $10.49 that would be proposed, $10.41, which is a little less for the garbage, but they'd like to be paid more for the recycling. By the contract, we should be paying them $3.48 for recycling next year. They'd like to see $5.30, or about $1.80 more than the contract allows. So the total that we would be paying John's per household would be $15.71. So you're looking at about $1.74 more than the contract allows per household.
So isn't it, I just did it monthly, so it's 167.60, and then with John's,
This is monthly. We're talking monthly.
the, on top is monthly. No, I was doing up here.
The top thing
Monthly is on the
yearly.
Oh, okay, so what is, this is yearly. Okay, this is yearly then. Okay, so basically, it'll go from 167.60.
Well, let's talk about the
to
monthly.
188.52.
Let's talk about the monthly.
Okay,
It's going to go from 1373 to 1571. That's the proposal.
Yeah, their proposal.
And-
That's their proposal, and our contract says it goes from 1373 to
That's per
1397.
household, and that's what we pay?
No, that's what the city pays John's.
And we collect that, explain that.
And then the residents pay slightly more than that, because the residents also pay for other things, like the city has administrative costs, for example. That's why what the residents pay is more than what we pay John's.
so what percent, do we have some wiggle room, what we're collecting from the residents for John's, and what our taxpayers are paying? Is there a little cushion there?
I don't know if there's any wiggle room between what we collect and what we pay. That I would have to talk to
Paula?
Paula and the mayor.
Okay. I guess myself would like to see those numbers before I make a decision on anything. What we pay John versus what we take in to see where we're at with the numbers.
So you're asking that some of that buffer be taken out?
I want to see
If there
what,
is one. If
yeah,
there-
yeah.
Assuming there is.
Yes, I want to see, you know, how big it is. If it's just a slight buffer, if it's, you know,
I think that's only one of the variables here, though. You know, the other variables is their costs. I see no value in having them walk away from the contract and us rebidding this, when this may be, and I'd like to hope it is, a temporary situation. Because there's costs to that.
to what?
to
RFPs?
rebidding and playing all that thing. And it is potentially possible, if we put it out for rebid, they could be low bidder again and higher than this.
Right,
That, because their competitors are gonna be in the same boat, as they are.
right.
And they've got the same costs essentially, there might be some advantages they may have that they
But they don't have to pay for the landfill because, to dump there because they own it.
They have to pay for the landfill in some fashion. You know, their use of it, they're paying
Waste?
for it in some fashion.
Waste management?
Sure.
I thought, don't they own it?
They pay themselves.
They
Pay
own it, and
themselves, and there's costs to that.
there's a massive investment, and it's big operation, but there's
Investment
big
is their-
profit.
Is what they're paying.
Right,
It's still expensive for them, too.
okay. So what if some of your municipalities say, no, you know, we're gonna stay with the current rate with the, you know, CPI increase, and then you guys go belly up, because it sounds like you're having financial struggles now with the recycling costs going up. So if some municipalities drop out because they can't afford, especially the smaller cities like Whitewater and Jefferson, then are the rest of the cities going to be picking up that cost eventually? We're going to be going up again in 2021.
I hope not. And honestly, it's still, everybody has that, that one, it's about that 1/4 of a ton as each home. So the smaller cities, they have fewer homes, they have fewer tons, it's proportional. So it seems like it's what our ask is similar for everywhere we go. Now yours, there's a lot of other stuff we do here too, so it was a little more than what just the recycling is, but not, not much. I mean, it's probably 80-90% of what we're requesting is just to keep us even on the recycling.
How is our special pickup? Is most of our households are doing the 2 per year? Are we doing pretty good with that?
It's less than that. But
Okay.
it's going well, and we just have had no complaints about that at all. And we really, you hear of a few things, and it doesn't seem to come back. But at the drop-off center, we do get occasionally people that are angry just because, they got they're out of compliance with whatever they're bringing in. And
Right, that's understandable.
aldermen and all this, but
Right.
Have you heard much problems come back to you?
No, you guys have been amazing with move-outs. If our code enforcement officer, Mark, or Jeff Cavett, you guys come the same day and get the couches and the dressers, and I will say that your service is top of the line.
Thank you.
I have never, ever received a complaint, and when I do get a complaint, your office staff is very good at calling the driver and having them swing back by, especially with the construction on Morgan. You guys have been great. I had one lady on Shower that had an issue with putting her can out because of the road project, but she figured it out in the end. So, hats off to you. If, you guys have been good to work with. I know, speaking with the mayor of Franklin, he feels the same way, that you guys are
Well,
top
and
notch.
I think if you look at it too, and clearly you'll compare to other communities, and you have to kind of make sure it's apples for apples, because you guys really have, everything. You're getting more service than almost anybody that I know of around here with, with us operating the drop-off collection.
And you guys do the bagsters, which isn't in the contract. The bagsters from Home Depot, those,
No, that's not.
no, you guys picked up mine.
We were involved with one that was a problem, and we took care of it, yeah. I don't know what happened, it was like a rental or
ba-
something.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Bruce.
To get back on the request here. So what we're looking at is 1373. There's a monthly per unit charge now, and the request in front of us is 1571, right? And that's per household, right?
That we pay Johns, yes.
So-
15.
Every household, that's
So it's
$1.80, no, be almost $2 a month. So the average,
So it's like $20.92 to be exact.
A year.
Yes,
so the average household would pay $20.92.
correct. If we do the rate increase as John's is proposing, the 14%. So it would go up from 167.60 to 188.52.
Question, do you think we should refer this to finance? Get some more numbers with Paula and the
It
mayor?
could go to finance committee, yeah, and they could look at it. Paula could prepare something ahead of time.
Who actually, you know, part of this proposal down here is talking about negotiating negotiating this change. Who actually would negotiate that?
The council?
Well, it would be,
It says it's approved by the council,
No.
it reads like it was negotiated prior.
typically what would happen is it would come to us at the staff level, and we would discuss it with the city attorney and eventually the council, yeah.
The reason I'm asking is I think that it needs to go to that process and investigate that buffer zone that we were concerned about and an escalator, de-escalator clause. The one thing about that, I don't know how logistically effective it might be, but you could do it on a monthly basis. That might be a little arduous to track those prices that way.
No, we give you guys like quarterly
Okay,
reports.
You know,
And
we
what-
could have this price going up and down, you know, and we'd have to put some caps on it. You know, I understand that.
what we've done, I would suggest that this would be the bottom so that there wouldn't go any lower, and it could be just a credit or a rebate, like we could literally give you like quarterly, give a rebate check
So I
back.
think that process, I think, ought to go forward. You know, then bring it back to us, we make the recommendation yea or nay, and then it goes to the full council. I think that's a better approach, frankly.
We're pretty confident that it's bottomed out now, but it could, you know, I mean, we don't think it's gonna go lower than what it is now.
So if you look, I don't have this particular number on this sheet here, but if you look at it, so the by the contract, the difference between the 2020 rate by the contract, the increase by the contract per unit, per household, is 24 cents. The increase that John's is requesting per household is $1.98.
Really?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if I do,
Yeah, I have it right here.
The 1371, the 15, if it's 1373 to 1571. So if that was 1573, that'd be $2. So it's just short of $2
Yeah,
per
so
household,
month or
per
a
month,
year?
a month.
per household.
Okay,
So
so
per,
it's
per,
24.
what we would pay John's per household, it should be going up by 24 cents. By their current request, it would go up by $1.98.
Times 12,
But I'm just saying per month, yeah.
times 12 months.
Per year, yeah. So, I guess to clarify your point, what, can you, Mr. Kaza, would you clarify what your request is?
I would think staff should engage in trying to work out something more formal than just a blanket 14% increase, which is what it's written, the way it's written here. And then bring it back, hopefully something that's palatable to everybody. them as well as us, and then move it forward.
And we're gonna need input from Paula, our finance manager.
And that's why I'm saying it's got to go through not just him, but just, finance people.
Should we take it to the finance committee then, first?
And the city attorney, they'd have to,
Right.
they'd have to come up with a
But,
language.
but once we come up with something, should it go to finance next?
Oh, why?
Well, because it's
It's
related to, it's related to our
$23
revenue,
Yeah, I think maybe we should send it to finance, then we'll have Paula comes to our finance meetings,
Okay.
unless you guys wanted to come back here.
Well,
But I
it
would
could,
before-
it could come here
I would
after
before
that.
sending it to finance.
It could come back, because finance meets twice a month, and we only meet once, so.
When's your next meeting, Madam Chair? You, next
Tomorrow
week?
night.
Oh, tomorrow.
So it would be the next, it would go to the next finance committee then.
After that, then.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Do you want it to come back to Public Works then?
Yes.
Or to finance.
After,
It's gonna go to finance and then I want it back, at committee, at Public Works.
Okay.
This time we refer to finance.
Oh. Okay.
After finance, then it comes back. I think that
So we'll put on an agenda.
it's kind of always been
for this
Public
meeting
Works.
For next month. And we'll
Yeah.
we'll put it on the agenda for finance in 2 weeks.
You think you can get some numbers and good?
Sure. oh, yeah,
Cushion.
yeah, we can do that.
With these
Okay.
folks, get some,
I'll help with that revenue
Yeah.
share plan with the recycle values.
Yeah, okay. We'll work together on it.
So then, if someday it comes back, it could all come back, theoretically. If the value comes back a lot, you get a lot back then.
So you'll see that we're gonna go to finance with this and discuss it with our finance manager. And the mayor's also at those meetings. I like to get his input in this too. And so then after we discuss it in finance, then it's gonna come back to this committee next month.
Thank you
So
so
that's
much.
where we're at.
Thank you for this
For all
consideration.
the information, I appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks for making all that garbage for us.
You'll have more recycling. Let me know if that recycling out here isn't. Thanks. All right. Moving on, I am going to skip to number 7.
6?
No, I'm going to skip to 7. You're here for the parking? Okay, number 7, discussion and decision to adopt an ordinance amending section 8.04 of the Greenfield Municipal Code regarding a parking zone reserved for people with disabilities, 3829 South 39th Street.
Okay, as you just stated, that we're looking to do this, as we have done many times in the past, the parking zone. Per the city ordinance, a fee would be assessed for cost of materials, equipment, and labor for the signs. The fee is $255.
And you're okay with that? Oh, can you come up to the podium, please? Were you aware of the $255 fee?
Yes, I'm made aware of that.
And you're agreeing with that? Okay, thank you. All right, I will make a motion to create a parking zone reserved for person with disabilities at 3829 South 39th Street, text key as listed.
second.
Okay. Under discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So do you know how long it will be, John? Or we have to approve it at council?
So
Okay.
we're looking about 6 weeks out.
About 6 weeks, sir. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your patience.
Problem until then.
Okay. All right, thank you for coming in. Yep. What?
She's a question about, is it
I'm
disability?
just wondering what the problem is. Are we allowed to ask that? Or does everyone already know?
HIPAA, no. No.
I have no problem.
I mean, we used to discuss those things.
It seems.
You might want to ask that, I don't know.
No, he already has the disabled
We don't normally.
placard. No, Jeff, that's a HIPAA.
Right, we don't normally.
No, no, you guys, no. We do not ask that. That's a HIPAA violation.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know, but it's.
Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, thank you. Back to 6, discussion and decision to sign an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with West Dallas for a street improvement project.
Okay, so where's my 6? Okay. A project to make improvements to 116th Street between Howard Avenue and Morgan Avenue is planned for 2020. Portions of the street are within both Greenfield and West Allis. Greenfield will be the lead municipal agency for the construction of the improvements. This is in Carl. This intergovernmental cooperation agreement sets forth the terms by which West Dallas will pay to Greenfield the actual cost of improvements within the West Dallas corporate boundary. So we're doing a project, and because it's in both communities, we're going to take the lead, and West Dallas is going to pay their share.
So the projected West Dallas total is $97,792.50. And the total cost of the project?
Total cost of the project is, do you remember, Brian, approximately? We don't know yet, it's under design, but
Okay, so what percent do you feel the West Dallas portion is? 1/6, okay. Okay,
yep, so it's,
well, it's nice to work together with our neighboring municipalities
They,
and save money.
we work together with Milwaukee on a regular basis, and we approached West Dallas on this project, and they were more than happy to do it because otherwise they would have to repair this part of the road.
So is it a full reconstruction, curb and gutter?
No, it's
Just a mill and overlay?
gonna be, yeah, more like that.
Yeah, because I see pulverized and really, okay. Is there a water problem?
It is kind of wet out there. There's, it's kind of marshy in that area.
Okay, I will make a motion to sign an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with West Dallas for a street improvement project as listed on Exhibit A. Under discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, discussion and decision to adopt a winter maintenance policy.
Okay, so let me just lead this one off. So the proposed winter maintenance policy outlines the process by which Public Works responds to winter events. It also sets the expectations for how Public Works responds within its limits of available staff, equipment, de-icing chemicals, and the budget. Not every snow event is the same, therefore not every snow plowing effort's the same. With minor snowfalls, all the streets might be plowed within 6 to 8 hours. With heavy snowfalls, it may take longer, up to 12 hours to clear all streets. Every effort's made to complete snow plowing operations as quickly and safely as possible. We do not have sufficient staff or equipment to provide 24-hour coverage. Public Works limits the number of continuous hours that a snowplow operator can work on a shift. The limitation is done with the public's and the plow operator's health and welfare in mind. The facilities, it's more than just streets, the facilities that require winter maintenance are divided into classifications by priority. So the high priority classifications are our arterial streets, our collector streets, our institutional streets, for example, streets that go past schools, and commercial streets. So in the commercial districts, say for example, 74th Street. Our medium priority classifications are residential streets, alleys, and parking lots that we plow, like here at City Hall. And then the low priority classifications are sidewalks and, for example, bus pads. De-icing chemicals like salt are expensive and limited in supply. Proper application of chemicals depends on weather conditions and type of facility. After the winter event is ended, the effort will switch to cleanup with the intermediate goal of bare wet pavement and finally the ultimate goal of bare dry pavement. So just kind of summarize what this policy does, it kind of explains how Public Works is going to react to snowstorms in the winter. So people have, so both the council and our residents have an understanding of how we're going to attack that snowstorm. And it also kind of talks about the limitations that we have. So in other words, we're going to go after the most important streets first, the neighborhoods second. We got to do it within the number of people that we have, the number of trucks that we have. So, and also the budget. So, salt has a cost, fuel has a cost, labor has a cost. So we're going to do it as best we can within the available resources that we have.
So we just are doing the policy, but it sounds like DPW has been doing this all along. This is nothing new.
Yeah, what changed?
It's just in writing now.
We never had a policy?
Correct. We've never had a policy before.
Oh, okay.
But this is the way you guys did it.
Yeah, and John can speak to that, how the policy reflects what we do.
As we've morphed into the application of chemicals and anti-icing and pre-wetting of our salt as we take care of the streets, you sort of need a template or a winter road maintenance policy to help everyone understand our methodology of how we attack a storm. Like Jeff said, every storm's different. Temperatures are either warmer or colder, or road temperatures are a big thing that contribute to how you fight a storm. So this is more an overview of how we currently do things, to Linda's point. Yeah.
So then this is going to be online. How are residents going to access
It
this?
can be available. It can be available online. Some of the other things in the policy, it talks about how we monitor the weather, how our working foreman, the on-call working foreman is basically got one eye sleeping and the other eye open on the weather, during bad weather. How the police department and DPW work together. So, for example, the police department will contact DPW if they know about changing weather conditions, because the police department is outdoors 24/7, so they're a valuable resource. So the policy kind of talks about all those little details, kind of spells it out.
Just out of curiosity, how many hours can a plow driver work?
Typically up,
Ask.
Oh,
typically up to about 18, 20 on a stretch.
What I was concerned about.
per shift?
The way it
Like
reads,
straight,
you've got people behind a plow,
24 hours?
Not 24 hours, no.
but 18 hours, they're behind it.
They may be out up to 18 hours.
Yeah,
Or on shift.
Yeah, we're talking about extremely bad winter weather. That's not a typical.
Yeah, I read that in here. It says the 18 hours, and then down below it's give a number.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
I'm a little concerned about putting one of your guys out there for 18 hours. I mean,
As we are as well. Yeah.
That's a long time.
And that's part of what.
It happens sometimes.
Well, you're
Is that what
tired,
is that what
yeah.
I'm asking, does it happen?
It has happened in the past. What we've been doing is doing like an A and a B shift if we know there's a long duration storm,
Yeah, I
which
would hope
a
so.
lot of the storms we typically get these days are, 7 inches over 14 hours or 18 hours. We'll split the shifts and have not 100% saturation 100% of the time, but we'll have 50% saturation of drivers and equipment 100% of the time.
we're talking safety both ways, clearing the streets and putting a driver out.
Paramount.
Yeah, I would, both directions can be a problem.
And that's what this
I'd
policy.
almost rather see the snow plowing get a little farther behind, because people
Mm-hmm.
can stay in.
And that's kind of what this
guy behind the
policy
truck.
talks about. It says we have limitations. It talks about, what our best effort is and how that's going to impact what you're gonna see in terms of how long it takes to go from snow to dry pavement.
Maybe we should consider limiting how many hours a snowplow driver can be behind the wheel. Has that been done in other communities? If we said, now's the time, I imagine you're giving us this policy to review, maybe it's time the common council said, hey, maybe we don't want anybody to work more than 16 hours straight.
18.
No, I'm saying 16 or 18, either one.
Or more than 12.
I don't know that,
Frankly, 12 seems to be a limit to
Yeah.
me. To be behind a snowplow for that
I'm
long.
thinking it was 16. I know we could not,
No, obviously, I'm assuming.
I
you
worked
get
for the
breaks
county
and
for a while, we could not work more than 16
They
hours.
get breaks during that time.
But you're still tired if you don't, yeah, you don't sleep, and then there could be a potentially
Well, and the other
fatal
context
accident.
is we could get into a situation back-to-back snowstorms, and you could have a person that's behind a wheel for 18 hours, and then 12 hours later, he's back out because we've had another, blast.
Isn't there like a law for semi-drivers that they can only drive so many hours per 24-hour day?
There's CDL limits, aren't there?
But the thing about over-the-road truck driver, they do this continuously around, whereas for plowing, they don't do this 18-hour shifts continuously. This may be that's not typical, that's an extreme case, and it may be rare.
extreme cases we have in the past. I mean,
I-
that
I'm
would
just
include,
concerned
the 18
about
hours I referenced earlier would include a regular shift as well, doing the normal daily DPW maintenance and things like that. And, you hop in when the snow starts flying and get after it. So,
I mean, I'm comfortable leaving it up to the superintendent's discretion.
I am too. I was just concerned when I saw that, that they'd be behind the wheel that long.
no, not necessarily, no.
Okay.
We try not to.
Okay, I will make a motion to,
I would, well, I'll go along with this, but I think maybe that we should look into that, of
So-
limiting our
well,
drivers.
I feel for
do other cities do that at all?
scheduling.
Have you seen TOSA or anybody else?
No, I
Limit their drivers
regularly
to
meet,
16 hours of actual plowing. And then, I know, I used to work for the county, and I still do part-time. We could not work more than 16 hours without an 8-hour shift. In a squad car, we had rules.
sure.
You couldn't, after 16 hours, and you had to have an 8-hour shift, even during a snowstorm, which we were needed a lot, just like DPW is, on the freeway system. No matter what, they sent us home after 16 hours.
Yeah. I believe the county has two 12-hour shifts in the wintertime, so they have the coverage 100% of the time with guys working 12 hours.
Well, yeah, they have to do the freeways. What was I gonna ask?
But if you guys want to go along with it and just leave it up to discretion,
Well, what
that's
you could-
fine, but I say,
Bruce,
something
you
they
could,
might put on.
you could propose that we modify this document to have that limitation, that any single driver doesn't work more than 16.
So if someone's behind the wheel for more than 12 hours, they get like an hour lunch, and then like every 2 hours, they get like a 15-minute break to get out, stretch your legs,
Yes,
use the bathroom.
right.
So every 3 hours, they get a break? 4 hours?
We call them in, tell them to take a break, snow's letting up, come on in and get loaded up, stretch your legs, we'll have some breaks.
Get something to eat?
Provide some snacks for them and stuff like that, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We follow the storm, we follow the pulse of the department, the guys, and you can pretty much tell, let's bring it in for an hour or so, guys, reload, refuel, stretch out for a little bit, but
So if someone's had enough, they'll say, hey, I don't want to go back out.
they'll tap out, yeah. And
Okay. Okay.
And that's the thing, that's one of the things that it says in the policy, is that the superintendent and the working foreman on call, the supervisory people have discretion over how they manage the operation, which includes provide, who's out when and breaks, and depends on the weather conditions too. If it's the snow stopped and they're cleaning up, that's different than if they're in the middle of a hard driving.
Well, and I feel comfortable having our superintendent, he works with these people 5 days a week for, years, that he will pick people that have done it before successfully. And if there's a problem with someone, of course, they wouldn't be the one to come in for the overtime if they couldn't handle it. So I'm comfortable leaving it up to our superintendent's discretion to continue the practice that he's been doing. They do a wonderful job plowing, following the weather, working hand in hand with PD to do the snow emergency parking. I haven't seen, or heard of any problems. I mean, it's basically what we're doing, we're just putting it down on paper. So,
And now's the time to do that. I would like to make a motion that we approve this and adopt this winter maintenance policy with provision that that the City of Greenfield Common Council adopts this policy and would like, how can we word this? We word this where I would like to have it in there where 16 hours would be of one shift, that a snowplow driver of 16 hours.
cannot exceed 16 hours per shift.
I wouldn't make it a hard, but I would say that we would recommend that this be highly desirable, that the city council highly desires that no driver would go beyond 16 hours without an 8-hour shift in between, without 8-hour rest in between. And if this this board doesn't go along with that, I'll bring it up at council and see if I can get the other members to agree that we don't have to require it, but I'd say that the wording, that we put wording in there that the city would like the superintendent to very strongly not exceed, that we wouldn't require him to it, but that we would be cognizant of the fact that we would not like to exceed the 16 hours.
Okay, so if we're going to add that verbiage, Park and Rec plows, are we gonna tell them the same thing? That they can't go out for more than 16 hours? And
That's fine.
what about contracts?
I'm concerned about this policy that's in front of us now, and I think it would be not a requirement, but it would be highly recommended that nobody exceed 16 hours without an 8-hour provision of rest.
We could modify the policy to include that language.
That'd be my motion to add that language.
I would second that.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Under discussion, I'd like to know how the superintendent feels about that. Is that a reasonable addition there?
It is reasonable, but I'm thinking about a regular shift. We start at 7 a.m. We typically work till 3:30. That's a normal working day. And if they're held over late because it starts snowing heavily at 2 in the afternoon, they hop into their truck at 2:30 and start the salting operations and the plowing operations. And the snow ceases at 10 o'clock p.m. We're getting towards that threshold of exceeding 16 hours where we could finish and clean up and be done by midnight and come back by 7.
But again, my language doesn't require you to do that.
Okay.
I would like that language, and maybe I'll consider that when I think about it more, when this matter comes to council, that we require you to make that happen. But my motion now says that you have the option, but it's highly recommended that your workers not exceed 16 hours. That's the way it is now. So your question would be, he said he can still exceed it. Is that what you
Right,
want?
no, that's the way I understood it.
Shirley, did you understand that scenario? Where we just go. And we,
So if it's highly recommended, it's not written in, so,
It's going to be written
When it gets to
It's gonna be
15 and a
written in.
half hours, we want him to think about it.
The language can,
well, which he does already, He's not new to the position, he's extremely seasoned. I don't feel like we should be controlling his duties as a manager.
My jobs.
They do.
I don't want people put at risk to do it either.
Well, and I don't think John does either.
Yeah, I know, we just want to be careful about it, that's all.
And I appreciate everybody's concerns and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 9, Superintendent of Public Works report.
Thank you. The men and women of DPW have been hard at work all summer long, taking care of multiple tasks. We started this season of assisting Park and Rec with some of their right-of-ways and their outlying parks maintenance, which would include lawn maintenance and pruning back of shrubs and trees and things like that. We also did the gazebo restoration at Haker, which is now Elmquist Park and Creekwood Park. We sandblasted, primed, and painted those gazebos there. They look very nice. We did some heavy forestry work at Haker Park. If you get a chance, take a look. It looks almost like a brand new park. We also constructed a new planter at Elmquist Park prior to the rededication there. Fixed the wall at the community center on 72nd Street that was listing a little bit. We most recently completed an asphalt project at Fire Department number 92, where the staff of Public Works milled and overlaid over 320 ton of asphalt and did the pavement marking there. It was over a 2-week project that came out very well. So multiple street lighting projects in the city. With the resurfacing of South 43rd Street, we erected and lit the streetlights on South 43rd Street between Grange and Ramsey. The Midland neighborhood streetlights are now up. We're just waiting for the Morgan Avenue project to button up, and then we'll have those lit, as well as We Energies needs to take their old poles down in that neighborhood. South 92nd Street, in conjunction with the state project, we put up some poles there too, some new LED street lighting there. Traffic signal maintenance continues daily on the over the 1,700 streetlights that we take care of. We've had a couple knockdowns this past summer of streetlight poles. That takes a little bit to rewire, get the heads put back on and put back up. Assisting IT citywide in different buildings and departments with security work and just improvements on the computer side of things. Most recently, we are installing some blinking stop signs on 35th and Edgerton. That Edgerton project was done 2 years ago, and it's a long stretch without any blinking stop signs. I think it helps as you drive in both east and westbound there.
Could you please repeat that? Because I just got a call again today about that
Sure.
request. So
35th and Edgerton.
I thought it was going to happen like next year maybe. Or...
No, made a department decision to install the blinking stop signs at 35th and Edgerton, both southbound 35th and east and westbound Edgerton there. I think they're very beneficial there. If you have any calls or concerns, let me know, please.
Yeah, okay.
Other projects, crack sealing, we recently completed about 31 lane miles of crack sealing in various neighborhoods around the city. Line striping, which includes the stencils and crosswalks around all school zones throughout the city. We started our line striping east of 60th Street this year. Next year will obviously be west of 60th Street. We're looking into some yard improvements at the DPW yard. We have a vast area that's still gravel, and there's minimal storm sewer drainage there, so we're looking at maybe installing some storm inlets in that area, as well as putting up a cold storage building that we disassembled from the Ridge Church when they moved into the old Walmart Garden Center over there. That was a few years ago, probably 5-6 years ago. And then re-asphalting the areas that are currently asphalt, and then asphalting over that gravel area in the DPW yard. So right now it's all pretty much surface shed. So, and then last but not least, looking at installing an ice rink for the community to use this winter at Conkle Park. Our staff recently did some site work there where they put out a leveling platform for the ice rink to sit on, and looking forward to opening that up in December, mid-December. So.
Which part of Conkle?
It would be front and center. It would be along Layton Avenue between the LED sign and the concession stand, which I would call
Okay.
north concession.
Wow, that'll be so
The
nice.
rink is about 60 by 110, so it'd be a nice size.
Wow.
So we're working with other communities to acquire like rubber matting so you can protect your skates as you walk around in the concession stand area. And
Are we gonna have like skate rental and hot cocoa and,
right now we're just going to ask for a donation.
okay,
Yeah, so.
so bring your own skates and thermos.
And I also heard that the building there, the concession stand, we're gonna be putting up some temporary walls.
Some temporary walls, yeah,
Yeah.
we've been working with Park and Rec and building inspection in regards to access and egress and some lighting and talk to the fire department about safety and things like that. It's coming along pretty well.
Are we done with EAB for this year? Did we take down what we needed to?
We did for the winter removals. Currently, we have about 45 service requests for removals coming up in November through April of 2020.
Okay, and leaf pickup starts,
Pickup starts October 7th.
okay,
I think that's a Monday.
okay.
Yeah. So.
Pretty soon. Yeah, that's a Monday, October 7th. Okay, thank you.
So for leaf pickup, do we start at the same end of the city all the time, or? I know years ago that was. it
East
was
to
going
west.
Maybe change, like 1 year we do this way and the other, but,
You have to face forward, we cannot hear anything you're saying.
oh, maybe that's not.
You have to talk like literally.
So is it always the same?
The schedule is out. I
We-
saw the schedule.
We run the Aldermanic districts east to west. Yes.
It's always number 1 first.
So I know, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, someone said it was going to change, like, maybe every other year it would start from the other end to the west to east, or.
North to
because
south.
people- Or north to south, or whatever, but, no.
I think we have a pretty good.
Better? No?
I think we have a pretty good system.
Did you push your button?
The light has to turn green.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, okay, now I know.
It's a pretty good system we have right now. We do the Aldermanic districts east to west. If anybody would like to change that, I'd be open to discussion on that.
Well,
It's-
I'm satisfied with that
Fine.
because
I suppose,
sometimes the
well,
later
and the reason is,
leaves fall, so you can start on these.
Because my district's first, so then the other districts have more time for the leaves to fall.
Multiple passes, so eventually they hit each district more than once.
Right.
We have 3 scheduled pickups. I can tell you we do at least 5.
Until it snows, basically.
We are weather dependent, yeah.
Okay. Number 10, engineering report.
It's been a pretty busy summer construction season here in the city. Just wanted to give you a quick update on various projects throughout the city. Morgan Avenue project from 43rd Street to Forest Home Avenue is really nearing completion. The landscape restoration was just completed today, actually, and paving is scheduled for later this week. We are on schedule for an expected road opening by October 15th. You may have noticed here at City Hall that we are replacing the pavers here in the parking lot. The south lot is nearly complete, and they'll be moving to the north and west lots by the community center here very soon and should be complete within the next several weeks. The funding for this project was from MMSD Green Solutions, so thank you, MMSD. Other improvements that you may have seen throughout the city this year include 43rd Street from Grange Avenue to Ramsey Avenue. That was a resurfacing and had some stormwater improvements as well on that project. We also resurfaced 116th Street from Layton Avenue to Cold Spring Road. We added sidewalk on Honey Creek Drive and Grange Avenue around Elmdale Elementary School. We replaced the community center roof, and the native vegetation that was planted around Wildcat Creek at Kowicki Park, that was done at the very end of last year. So we have done some maintenance on that, and we do expect it to take about 3 years for that native vegetation to really grow in. Other projects throughout the city that we weren't directly managing, but you certainly have seen them throughout the city, include Milwaukee County's 92nd Street resurfacing. They're currently in the second phase, the last phase of the project, and their completion is mid-November. The Department of Transportation resurfaced Loomis Road throughout the entire length of the city. They also rehabbed the 76th Street and Forest Home Avenue bridges over Interstate Highway 894. They're currently working on a new traffic signal at the intersection of Forest Home Avenue and 92nd Street. That will be complete later this fall. And if you're on 894, you may have noticed some noise walls going up around the Hill interchange. They did that as well. Some upcoming projects we have here throughout the city. We're going to reconstruct the neighborhood south of Morgan Avenue between 44th and 49th Street in the next 2 years. It's going to be split into 2 years of construction starting this year, this upcoming year in 2020. We will be resurfacing 116th Street between Howard Avenue and Morgan Avenue, which the prior agenda item addressed. We are going to be installing a traffic signal at 84th and Cold Spring Road, and we'll be doing some concrete repair along Cold Spring Road as well. And lastly, the Department of Transportation will be replacing the 68th Street Bridge over Interstate 894 beginning in approximately December. So that bridge will be out for about 8 months through August of 2020. So they're going to start here the middle of the school year. It will affect the school that's right there, but then they plan on being finished before the new school year begins. So that's going to be quite the inconvenience to our residents, but the bridge is in need of replacement.
Who pays for that bridge?
It's a state highway project, so the state.
You know, it's on our street.
Correct. Yep, it's the State Department of Transportation is paying for it.
And there's no way of expediting, I mean, they say 8 months and
That is,
gonna take 8
yeah,
months.
we've had quite a few discussions with them about this, and they are doing a very quick timeline on this project. This is their typical timeline for any bridge replacement.
They're working over the freeway, so.
So they are restricted to demolition during the night. They can only come to the freeway at certain times.
Okay.
One quick question, the stoplights on 84th and Cold Spring. What's the timeline on that now? Because we were delayed, right, on that project?
Yeah, we were delayed because of some material delays on the project. The traffic signal poles have a long lead time in the state right now, so we are expecting construction next summer for that in 2020.
Quick question. Alderperson Burkowski from Milwaukee is proposing to, on the Milwaukee side from Manitoba to Morgan Avenue on 43rd, to go from 4 lanes to 3, a center lane and a bike lane. Then they're going to wait 6 months. They're going to do the southern lane with the lane painting, and then they're going to do 6 months and then see if it's effective in controlling the traffic. Has there been discussions with any of you regarding continuing that into Greenfield? Because they're stopping at Morgan Avenue.
No, we haven't talked with them about that.
Okay. Would that be you, Brian?
Well, the thing about that is, most of 43rd Street is in that area is in, part of that's in Milwaukee, part of it's in Greenfield. So we would have to look at the split and what do they intend to do in those areas that are combined, Greenfield, Milwaukee.
Well, that's what I mean. Maybe it should be continuous because people think 43rd Street's 2 lanes and then someone's parked going southbound and then you're veering over, and could I request that Brian speak with the Milwaukee design engineer? I'll forward you the email. Brian, is that okay? Okay. Thank you. Items for future agenda, anyone? Alderperson Bailey?
Yeah, just,
No, you're not getting a goose crossing.
Yes, a
Geese
lady-
crossing.
actually,
Oh, my God.
A lady called me, requested a goose crossing
And I told him no.
on 69th and Edgerton, saying that there's geese in the retention pond.
But they can't read.
And they walk across Edgerton Avenue, and she is concerned about their safety.
Do we need a crosswalk?
A goose crossing sign.
No. No.
That's for people to be, I mean, that's for people to be aware, not that they can read. Just like we have signs that say deer crossing, or, I mean, I'm guessing that this is the same thing. I'm not for it or against it, I don't know, but I'm just saying,
No, I'm just saying,
don't laugh at it.
No, it's
No, I laughed.
it's a request that,
So did Jeff.
that I brought up, but it's not,
Do we have those, John? Will you draw a picture on it too?
Signs,
Yeah.
we have the capability.
Yeah, they migrate. They go south. What was your second item?
no, it wasn't. There is a lady that almost hit a deer on Grange Avenue with her deer crossing sign, and told me that that sign should be moved because it's very dangerous for the deer to cross there.
And there's going to be a lot of animals on Layton Avenue very soon.
If you think about that,
Don't quit your day job.
no,
When they take down the 2 acres of trees, that's going to be a car wash east of Myers. There are going to be deer, every kind of animal displaced.
so the my 2 items I would like us to put on the agenda for next meeting. No U-turn no U-turn sign on 84th Street in the Allerton area by the freeway. I'm getting a lot of calls from constituents. That's becoming a very problematic area because of 84 South and all the additions that we've made as a city and improvements we've made. And that's in my district, and I've gotten a lot of calls on the problems on 84th Street. So maybe we can look at a no U-turn sign on, I think it's Allerton Avenue there.
Is Allerton.
And right, all the development on 84 South creates a lot of traffic. In addition, maybe we can talk to the state on those, the duration of the stop lights there, because it does back up, especially northbound on the freeway. If you're northbound on 84th Street from Layton Avenue, it backs up almost way all the Layton Avenue, and becoming a problem there. And we might want to look into, I've had pedestrians, people, that's my district, and people have been trying to walk to 84 South, and it's difficult to walk. If you're walking from Cold Spring, try to walk from Cold Spring southbound into 84 South, and you have to really be careful because there's a lot of traffic. There's people doing U-turns when you get close to the freeway, the on-ramp there, and then when you get underneath, and then you get to the off-ramp, people are not paying attention for pedestrians, and they're not even stopping for the lights. They're coming off the off-ramp and going south, and if you're a pedestrian there, you really got to be careful because a lot of those drivers aren't paying attention to that. So maybe we can look into something in that area to make it safer for the citizens. The second item I have has been a request from a constituent to have a speed limit sign. He says there's none in his area, in the 4800 block of South 81st Street, especially for southbound traffic. There's no speed limit sign. He would like a speed limit sign that said, slow or radar enforced or something like that, because there's a lot of speeding because of the concerns that that whole subdivision had with the new project on Holmes Avenue.
Did you say a 4800 block of South 81st?
South 81st Street. And they're concerned, the several neighbors are calling me about that. They're concerned because of the, what we're going to be doing we're going to be closing out Holmes Avenue. And because of that whole project, it might create more problems. When you do something, there's always a reaction to it. And they want to be more proactive and maybe get a stop sign for 81st Street in the 4800 block because they're anticipating more traffic. Because they won't be able to go through on Holmes Avenue. So those are two things I'd like to consider on the next agenda.
Okay, thank you for that. Number 12, I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:01.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.